You ever walk into a room where you can feel the judgment before anyone even says a word? I mean, the kind of silence that isn't from air conditioning, but from something cold era silence that sits heavy, like everyone's just waiting for you to mess up. That was the air the morning I watched Amani Rhodes push open those courthouse doors. Not a drop of makeup, not a hair out of place, just a navy blue coat and the kind of steady, silent confidence that makes folks shift in their seats without knowing why. They watched her come in, not with respect, more like she was a stranger who'd wandered into the wrong neighborhood and just refused to leave. Her brother Darius sat there already, handcuffed and alone, his head bowed, so low you'd think the floor had secrets to tell. The minute Amani sat next to him, a security guard hustled over, all stiff and important, demanding to see credentials. You could almost hear the sneer in his identification now. Imani didn't blink. She handed over a neatly folded document, her movements slow and unbothered. The guard read it, jaw twitching, and marched it right up to the judge, who didn't even look up at first. Judge Griggs now. That man had a way of making his presence felt without a single glance. He let the tension hang before finally raising his eyes, landing on Imani like he was sizing up a threat disguised as a mild inconvenience. Self-represented defense, he said, and the whole room let out this thin little ripple of laughter. He loved these kinds of moments, you could tell. A woman defending her own brother, acting like she had any business there. But Imani didn't bite. She just nodded, all calm and steady. With all due respect, Your Honor, I'm well aware of the law. That didn't stop. Griggs leaned in, all oily authority, talking about how knowing the law and practicing it were two different things. Imani looked right at him, didn't back down, and said quietly, I've done both. You know that moment when the temperature in a room drops? That's what happened right then. Griggs tried to brush her off, but something shifty. A man in the back row scribbled in his notebook. The prosecutor started his song and dance about Darius's supposed gang ties, stringing together shadows and rumors without a shred of real evidence. When Imani asked for the forensic report, the actual facts, Griggs barely hid his annoyance. We're not here to chase ghosts, he said. She shot back, not raising her voice. Respectfully, the car wasn't even registered to my client, and there were no fingerprints on the weapon. That's in the initial report. Griggs, though, he wasn't interested in facts. He looked at her like she was speaking a language he didn't want to learn. Legalese from someone who shopped for justice at the discount aisle, he quipped, and the gallery chuckled, the kind of mean laughter that lingers in the air. Darius just shrank, trying to disappear, and you could see in his eyes that old familiar pain, feeling helpless, while someone with more power tried to bury you with words. But Imani, she didn't flinch. Objection, she said, soft but strong, and when Griggs got sarcastic, she fired right back. Neither is respect. For a moment, even the prosecutor looked like he'd bitten off more than he could chew. The judge tried to push on, but his voice was starting to lose its grip. The room was different now, tense, but also expectant, like everyone knew something bigger was brewing. When court broke that evening, Imani sat alone in her tiny apartment, folder open under the amber glow of a desk lamp, flipping through old documents marked confidential memories of her days as an FBI field agent. She hadn't just carried a badge, she'd worn it, believed in it, right up until the day her own team betrayed her. Operation Latchkey, they said it was shut down, but she knew the truth. Her evidence got buried, the corrupt got promoted, and she was sent to a desk. No cases, no clearance, no justice. She tried to tell herself staying quiet was the right thing, but all silence had ever done was let injustice keep breathing. The next morning, back in court, she wasn't just defending her brother, she was fighting every scar and every closed door she'd ever faced. You could feel in the air, like a storm you knew was coming but couldn't see. The twist? A witness named Kyle Edmonds took the stand, a kid, really barely able to sit still, clearly out of his depth. Imani didn't grill him, just gently asked, Did you really see Darius that night? Or were you told what to see? Kyle cracked under the weight, admitting a detective pressured him to point the finger. The gallery gasped. The judge tried to regain control, but Imani wasn't letting go. He's not speculating, he's confessing, she said, cool as ice. And then something wild happened. Kyle, trembling but honest now, said, "You probably don't remember me, but you came to my high school. You told us truth is louder than fear. It just needs someone brave enough to say it." For a second, the courtroom was silent except for one clap, then another ripple that Judge Griggs tried to crush, but the shift was done. For the first time, power slipped out of his hands. Imani's scar showed just for flashes. She gathered her files. A bailiff whispered, "That's a Kevlar burn. You don't get those from filing paperwork." Suddenly, people started looking at her differently, not as some outsider, but as someone with a past, someone who'd carried real danger and hadn't let it kill her soul. Griggs made a fatal mistake then. "You people always think you can twist the law to fit your anger," he said, his words stinking up the room like rot. Imani's students shout, "Didn't flinch. We don't twist the law. We hold it to the mirror and remind it who it belongs to." For a moment, all his authority evaporated. A few claps, a few nods, a rising sense that justice wasn't on his side anymore. And just when you thought it was all drama, the doors swung open. Federal agents in dark suits strode in, badges out, arrest warrant in hand. "Judge Everett Griggs, you are under arrest for obstruction of justice and abuse of authority." The courtroom froze, everyone stunned, as Griggs sputtered and denied. But nobody moved to help him, not the bailiffs, not the DA. When Imani set her old badge on the bench in front of him, every eye in the place went wide. She wasn't just Darius's sister. She was the agent who'd brought down the judge. They led Griggs out in cuffs, his authority scraping away with every step. Darius, finally unshackled, found Imani and just held her hand, a quiet thank you trembling in his voice. "That's the whole fight," she said, adjusting his collar like only a big sister could. "Not letting them define us. Not today, not ever." The crowd filed out, some nodding, some with hands on hearts quiet, but changed. Outside, reporters called after Imani, asking if she'd return to federal service. She just smiled no. This was personal. She and Darius walked down the steps together, side by side, no need for words, just the weight of everything finally shifting. Because justice didn't show up loud that day, it showed up in the quiet courage of someone who refused to let silence win. It showed up for every person who ever felt out of place in a room built to keep them out. If you felt something hearing this story, if it made you think about power, about dignity, about what it takes to stand up when the world wants you quiet, like, comment and share your thoughts below. Is justice about shouting, or is it sometimes about knowing when to stand still and let the truth speak for itself? I want to know what you think, because stories like this, they're not just told, they're lived, and they keep going as long as someone's brave enough to listen.